Good afternoon and welcome to day 4 of the 2021 South African Women and Sport Foundation National Advocacy Conference. I would like to call up a very familiar face in the football spaces, our dearly beloved, one of the trustees of SAWASF, Fran Hilton Smith, to officially welcome us to this session.
Morning, everybody. Fran Hilton Smith joining you today to give you a big welcome to our workshop. This is the final day. We've had our opening by Dumasani, and she certainly is a woman, in my opinion, that is broken out of her shell. Very vocal, knows what she wants, and there's no stopping her now. And that's our topic today. Ain't stopping women now. Break out of your shell. So we will be hearing from different speakers how they managed to do this. You can make a big noise. We've seen even now at the Olympics that Johannes Schoenmaker carrying the flag, a woman for South Africa winning the gold. So a big welcome to everyone. I'm sure we will learn from you. You will learn from our speakers today. And I wish you a very good workshop and hope you can go away and break out of your shell. There's no stopping us now. I've learned that in my many years in football, and I would like to see the same for you. Have a good day.
Breaking out of our shells, ain't no stopping us now, friend. Thank you so much for those words. Well, before we get into today's deliberations of breaking out of our shells and making sure that we are unstoppable, I just want to take us through a brief, just a synopsis, a summary of the past 3 days. So SAWASF, you host these conferences every single year. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, as from 2020 and now coming into 2021, the conference had to be done online, because usually we would come in and meet all sorts of different women, young, old, legends in the making, helping each other grow as women in sport, young girls as women in sport, leaders as women in sport, and just expanding the sphere of influence, or the sphere or this tribe of women that are breaking into new territory, that are expanding their leadership capacities. So before we get into all of that, and before I introduce the phenomenal woman I'll be talking to, I'm going to take you through day one. Well, the conference opened day one with some male sport journalists talking women and sport. These deliberations were led by none other than Ubusisiwe Mukwena, who is a seasoned journalist herself and has made the conscious effort, intentional decision to share and write stories about women in sport. Well, the panel included Mr. Daniel Mutwachaye, Tabiso Musia, our very own Mayor Ntambi Ravele, as well as Velile Mnyandu. Day two was all about guidelines for a gender-responsive sport organization. These deliberations, again, were led by none other than Usis Linda Rulashe, who is one of the SAWASF trustees as well. The panel there included phenomenal women, the likes of Sinem Ayedin, Prof. Rosa, Luandile Simelane of SASCOC, Dr. Lombe, our beloved Dr. Lombe, as well as Anna Mature Nguni from Zimbabwe, our neighbors. So, day three, which was yesterday, I was glued to my phone and my laptop at the same time, because they were talking about something that is really close to my heart. Day three was basically the case for investing in women and sport. This deliberation was led by the phenomenal leader, Munye Pao, recently appointed SAFA COO and the former Banyana player herself. The panel included Deborah Slena Larkin, our very own Bruce Davidson from the netball fraternity, Mr. Bram Vessels as well from Telkom, which sponsors netball, as well as Kelvin Watt. So this then brings us to day four today. where we will be talking about ain't stopping women now. Women need to break out of their shells and take up some space. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dumisani Chauke. I am the HOD of Sport at the Tshwane University of Technology, Ga-Rankuwa campus, also responsible for the Polokwane campus sport activities. Also, the assistant coach of the Spa Proteas. Just a small disclaimer on my side. I'm currently in Stellenbosch, involved with the varsity netball competition, where I am technical director for the Tshwane University of Technology netball team. So please don't be shocked when I have to disappear around 1 o'clock. The TUT netball team is playing a game this afternoon against University of Free State at 3 o'clock. So our team meeting is at 1 o'clock, and we'll soon depart for the game after that. So when I then leave, the phenomenal Mayor Ntambi Ravele will then come in as co-program director. She will then take over, steer the ship, and lead you into the landing strip as we close off. As we close off the session, I see some comments coming in from Katlego there, from Rec Life Sports. Fire introduction, Madam HOD. Yeah, we try. We youngsters always have a mouthful to say, but yeah, let me not waste any more of your time. Thank you, friend. Welcome. Thank you. Yes, let's get into what we are going to be talking about. Let's have our guests, our panelists, introduced to all our viewers. So, firstly, I'd like to introduce the unstoppable Sis Thembile Ntombela, who is the acting chief marketing officer at Brand South Africa. She has extensive classical marketing experience in FMCG, brand management, strategy development, global marketing, and destination marketing. With 22 years experience in marketing, she has led senior managerial positions at Nampak Tissues, Food Corp, Tiger Brands, Unilever, and Pioneer Foods. The experience from these diverse companies has enabled her to deal with complex business environments and projects. Lastly, her experience includes developing and implementing impactful, successful, and sustainable brand strategies. She completed a marketing undergraduate qualification at Mangosuthu University of Technology in KwaZulu-Natal. She then later pursued a postgraduate national diploma in marketing and BPhil honors in marketing through the Institute of Marketing Management. And listen to this. She's currently completing her master's in commerce through Mankosa. Hello, Sis Thembile.
Good morning.
Lovely.
Thank you for that brilliant intro. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I mean, all your accolades make it easy for me to just introduce you to our viewers who might be tuning from all over the world. So, our second panelist is none other than Katie Mohammed. Okay, so Katie is a dynamic, charismatic television broadcaster and businesswoman. Hi, Katie.
Hello.
So, as a marketing communication executive, she's the CEO and shareholder at Brand Fusion, an integrated business hub foundation, which is founded on the core principles of collaborative intelligence. She's a public speaker, an executive producer, television host, and her versatility, no English, her versatility has assisted her to excel in anything she touches. As the chairperson of Brand Fusion Foundation, she supports a global agenda that drives quality education and reduced inequalities, which ultimately enables impact-driven transformation through social and economic upliftment. Hi, Katie. Lovely of you to join us.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to be with all of us.
Yes, ladies, I cannot wait for us to start with our panel discussion, because here we are just going to talk. Because all of us are quite good at talking, right? Because this is what we do every day. I'm a netball coach. All I do is talk. Sis Tembile, she's there at Brand South Africa, and I bet they talk every day there. And you, Katie, I mean, you're on TV. Your job is to talk all the time. But our last guest, our third guest, Uzinhle Masangu, who is a certified nutritionist and life coach. She is the founder of Gate Wellness, which I know as Z Fitness. She's on social media as Z Fitness. Zinhle believes in a holistic approach to wellness, mainly focusing on financial fitness, life fitness, as well as physical fitness. She's the mother of one, Ukumo, who we all know she loves dearly. If you just follow her on Instagram, I mean, he's in there exercising, eating right, and motivating other kids as well. So there are a few accomplishments that we're just going to mention. She has over 10 magazine features. She's a brand ambassador for Under Armour, Wellness Warehouse ambassador, Trifocus Fitness Academy ambassador. She is also a trainer on 5 Color Fitness on Supersport TV. So we have a whole mix. I'll call it a box of smarties, a box of smarties of different phenomenal women that we'll be having a panel discussion with today. I do know that sometimes we as women, we take it lightly that we are actually brands. And it's quite important for us to have this discussion today. And without wasting any more time, 2 of the presentations that we received were on the value of networking. That's number 1. And number 2, we will be also talking about reputation management. So I'm going to start with you, Katie. So what is networking and what has it done for you?
I think people loosely use the word networking. I think it's evolved to connections and connecting more than just networking. Because I think networking sounds so social, but how are we using it to impact our lives, our success, our careers, and our social relationships? And for me, it really is about no man is an island. We cannot do life on our own. And in order for us to be able to get to the next level of our careers or our relationships, it's important to be able to connect with people. And with connections come collaborations and come further communication. So for me, networking is really more about a trading relationship. It's more about being able to leverage off each other. And, we'll talk about it, as we go along, is about people also realize when you are networking, there is an entitlement as well. So for me, it's who your network is. There's a great meme that goes around that says your net worth equals your network. And for me, that is exactly what it is. It's about the level of people that you create within your circle and your own community.
Absolutely. Networking being about leveraging, being about connecting and surrounding yourself with people that are going to push you up to the next level. So, Sis Tembile, I think you can come in there and sort of share with our viewers or share your opinion and maybe elaborate more on what you would say the benefits of networking are.
Thanks to Misani. As Katie has said, networking is really about connectivity and really mixing and learning along the way. So for me, what is important is that through networking, people are able to grow. So because you are interacting with different people, and as such, you are then learning new things. So it's fresh ideas. I look at it as more an opportunity to always improve from where you are. So comes collaboration, which Katie has spoke to, but also it creates opportunities of co-creation, because imagine me now, I'm working for Brand South Africa. You can imagine the number of stakeholders that I interact with. And sometimes they come in with the fresh eyes, and fresh ideas in terms of us and not discharging our mandate. So for me, networking really is a platform that will help one to elevate themselves. So from a personal growth point of view, from a leadership point of view, because some of your networks actually can become mentors. So you grow, you become a better leader as well. But also there's this thing of expanding your community, your leads. So they become even from a community to a national endeavor, and then before you know it, it's a global endeavor. So for me, those are the key benefits. It really is saying the time for you to think perhaps you are not capable to network is over, because the more you doubt yourself, actually, the less you will come across people. And networking breaks that cycle. It says, you know what, now I used to be that victim. Katie will tell you, I used to say, oh no, I don't want to be there. I want to be, behind the scene, because that's who I am. You come from being shy until you know that, what, shy is the last thing on my mind. Now I am going to go there and I'm going to network, because as I network, I grow and my stakeholder base, expands. And guess what? From expansion comes new ideas, comes new friends, comes new bosses. And I always say, I have a nice idea to write a book, lessons learned from the bosses. And everyone I come across, whether it's a gardener or it's a security guard, believe you me, as long as they have experience, they have wisdom. So that is all about networking. No idea is too small. No person is too small. Everybody has a role to play in equipping each other and growing each other. So those are the benefits. Network, network, network.
Well, definitely with your network, having a huge influence on your net worth. I mean, it's one thing that we need to encourage those that are watching to sort of break out of their shells and start networking. And I like what you said there in terms of sharing with our viewers your view and how you used to feel about networking. Because someone will say, yes, I would love to do that one day, but then they're quite intimidated, because networking can be intimidating if you're a person who is more an introvert, or you closed off, or you are too shy, or you just actually just underestimate yourself because you're not too sure how the other person is going to respond to you. But also, networking is about putting yourself out there and not having a certain expectation on how the person on the receiving end of your networking efforts is going to react. But the worst thing they can say is, no, I can't talk right now. And that's it, and you move on and you can meet someone else. And this then leads me to you, Zinhle. So being in the fitness industry, right, you probably network on a daily basis because you work with people every single day. What would you say has been one of your greatest networking moments that you can look back and say, gee, that moment, that conversation I had with so and so really propelled me to either think different or to operate in a different space?
Oh, thank you so much, Dumi, for that question. I must be honest. I think my best network session had to be when I was actually a last-minute guest on 5 Color Fitness. Literally, I was a guest, and mind you, I took the opportunity, I seized it, and I optimized, only to open the next 4 seasons, to be the head trainer for the 4 seasons. So for me, I really think networking is exactly that, just optimizing any opportunity that you have. And of course, like the ladies said, also just expansion. As much as I'm in the fitness industry, I do network with the likes of, I've met all of you ladies, Dumi, with you, it's been in a different capacity. So finding myself in different spaces as well, and of course, expanding my circle in that regard, yes.
Well, networking it is. We are still talking about ain't no stopping women. Women need to break out of their shell. So while you are listening, please remember to post any of your questions on the social media platform. We are currently being flighted live on the SAWASF Facebook page, as well as their YouTube page and on their website. Remember, whatever you post, hashtag SAWASF, hashtag no to GBV, hashtag women leaders, hashtag gender equality, hashtag women in sport. So now we are getting to the serious things, Sis Tembile, so you are an expert in reputation management, especially with your job at Brand South Africa, because your job is about maintaining, enhancing the reputation of South Africa and selling South Africa to the rest of the world, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. Firstly, educate us, what is reputation management? And perhaps also you can break down what a reputation actually is.
So I'll try and keep it as basic as possible, and leave the nation brand jargon, because that's a bit complex. In a very layman terms, reputation is how people think about you and what people say about you when you are not in the room. And now, so that says it is probably influenced by your character, which stems from your behavior. So what you do and what you say in the public domain ultimately creates a picture of who you are as an individual. That is what reputation is all about. So where it becomes tricky is really in the management thereof. Because as you would know, that in the era of digitalization and everybody having access, and also, the gadgets, social media, and particularly Twitter, people, it comes as natural or human behavior to respond to let me say controversial topics sometimes, without necessarily taking back and say, actually, who am I? Is this topic aligned with my value proposition as a brand? And we are talking about the fact that we are brands, and how a brand is supposed to then behave is to be in line with its ethos. It's to be in line with its DNA. So that's where reputation comes in, because reputation management then says, how much of your actions are we actually in control of? How much of an image, what image are you portraying? So let's bring it home. These days, to show a little bit of a boob is quite an in thing. But that boob, let me tell you, will follow you when you are sitting with a Nike or you are sitting with a potential sponsor, because now you've portrayed yourself somehow, in a different way, just because you want more likes, because you want, more followers. But that's not reputation building. Just because you have a lot of people behind you, on your social media, it does not translate into you, having influence as such, because there's what we call macro and micro influences, which is something they should also need to think about. Because if you are a brand persona and you are saying, I am building my brand and this is the perception I would like to create around myself, this is the positioning and posture. So lest you actually take care of the content and the positioning that you put in the public domain, because ultimately it will impact on how people see you and how people view you. So reputation is very important. It's even more important for me. I always say sports people, sports is one of our competitive advantage as a country. We excel in sports. So please make my life easy. Just carry yourselves as brand custodians that are responsible, that are remarkable. Then you make my life much easier. My job is going to be easy. It's going to be great, promoting Zinhle and to Misan from netball or anyone else for that matter, because they have played their part as well. To meet me halfway, they understand the rules of engagement. They understand what reputation is and what reputation is not. So in a nutshell, that is what reputation. Obviously, as you ask me later on, and we discuss the do's and the don'ts. I'll share some of the guidelines that I think could assist the audience that is with us here. But importantly, equally important, know who you are as a brand. Once you've defined yourself and you've defined your USP, which is a unique selling proposition, right? That should ultimately drive your own content, because then positioning comes in building a brand. And I'm not going to talk about the brand, but I'm just talking slightly of things that should guide you in terms of what you say and how you say it, and your character, how do you shape it, because ultimately it touches on that reputation. And we are about a South Africa that inspires new ways. So we would like to see people doing remarkable things and making it easy for us to showcase that we are a capable country. We are full of talent, of skills, and professionalism. So bigs up to reputation. It's critical in sports, absolutely critical. And there are endless case studies that you've seen. People that are remarkable that have fallen off the wagon because of reputation. From our own Hunter Cronje, may his soul rest in peace, to your Tiger Woods. It follows you. Reputation literally follows what you do, your actions, your decision making. So that is what we're talking about when we talk about reputation.
Yeah, absolutely, Sistembile. Behavior, actions, being accountable and being conscious of what it is that you put out, so that you sort of manage your reputation in the public domain. I myself, being one of your play your part ambassadors, I understand the importance the importance of being focused and being intentional in what I am passionate about and how I bring it across, because it also, there's a thin line between opinionated and being a bit more conscious in how you put matters out there, because you also need to manage this part of the reputation. So yeah, if you are tuned in, please do share your comments and questions, and we'll bring them up on screen. We will address them, we will answer them to you. But yes, thanks Tembule for enlightening us on what reputation is and how to then manage it. So Katie, working in sport, I mean, I know when you're on TV and you're talking netball, it gets hectic. You working in the TV industry, right? It must be a daunting task, I can just imagine. So what would you say are some of the key elements to keep in mind when either creating or preserving your reputation or brand?
You know, when we started, most of us started in the industry probably over 2 decades ago. There was no social media. So a lot of the times we could get away with a lot of things. So social media, you know, there's no, you cannot get away from saying something inappropriately, even in a restaurant or being in a public space. So I think for me, it has evolved in time. It is more daunting now than when we were back, you know, on television. For me, the most important thing is that you need to be true to yourself. And I think Stabile touched on it. You need to be authentic. You know, people see you from a media perspective, exactly who you are when you are with your family, with your children, or with your friends. Just be authentic. And I think there is nothing more people want is to see authenticity when it comes to a brand and a reputation perspective. And also trust. You know, people want to trust people in you know, whether it's sports stars, whether it is people in corporate that they work with, people want to trust them. So, and you know, Dumisani, is if you post something, you know, on social media, and if it's something that you might have posted that is not, you know, there's a whole lot of people that are influenced by you. So I think it's an accountability from a brand reputation is quite huge. When you choose to be a sports person or an athlete or a celebrity or the new influencers that we talk about, is that with all of this comes responsibility. So people need to trust people that are, I mean, within 2 seconds, something can come up from 2013 that you might have tweeted or I might have tweeted. And I think that is what it is. It's if you are authentic to your true self, you will not get yourself into trouble. And I think also, you know, for me, it has become more daunting because we want to be relevant, and relevance and not necessarily real. It's, you know, I always say we talk about influencers at the moment. For me, influencers are not putting on a pretty dress or high heels. Influencers are the activists, are the ones that are driving the agendas of gender-based violence, the ones that are driving the sports agenda. You know, those are the real influencers. So for me, it can only be daunting if you are not authentic. And I think we have to work on this authenticity as well, because I think confidence you're not really born with. It's the same with your brand. You build your brand as you go along. If something doesn't work, you move that way, and you kind of, you know, steer your path to another way. So I think for me, those are the very most important thing. It cannot be daunting anymore if you are authentic.
Oh, thank you, Katie. So, some pretty stern words that we can pick up there: authenticity, accountability, responsibility, because those all go hand in hand. And it's incredible, or it's actually quite concerning to see that the influencers on the social media influencers, some of them, hey, I don't want to get into that because I'm not the ethical police.
You might get into trouble, or you might get yourself into trouble.
Or I might get myself into trouble. So yeah, I think there's a huge difference between social influencers, like you're saying, and activists, because activists are literally standing up and being the voice for something, for a worthy cause, where influencers are just influencing you to either buy or follow. So And both of them come with reputation management, and what you are following, what you are standing up for, what you are posting, what you are saying, what you are influencing people to do comes with accountability and responsibility. Yes, freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, but freedom comes with accountability and responsibility as well. So, Zinhle, you are in a male dominated industry. Me and you, sport, fitness, same WhatsApp group. So
Yes.
being in a male dominated space of fitness, how are you able to build your brand, and how do you manage your reputation in that space, in the life, in the period, in the time of social media?
Well, firstly, to Misani, I think sometimes I have bigger biceps than most of the males in my industry, so I really give them a run for their money. But I think for me, Stembile and Uketi literally took the words out of my mouth. It's just being authentic, and of course, I think another thing that's very, very important is just being true to yourself and what you stand for as a brand. I mean, if you look at fitness right now on Instagram, it's very sexualized, and I often preach that I want respect rather than attention. Because like
Yes.
Mrs. Tembile once again said, you take out a boob, yes, you get more likes. However, it is respect that I am personally after rather than attention. And I think also just being in a male-dominated industry, I feel if you look at the market of fitness, the largest consumers are females. So it's great to be able to relate to me as a female rather than a male. I am a mother as well, so I can deal with a client who is a mother, who is a teacher, who does a whole lot of things. Why? Because it's relatable to them. And I think personally, I think also just respecting yourself. Self-respect is a big, big, big thing for me. Like I'm saying, in the industry that I'm in, is very, very sexualized. I don't even look like half of the females that are in my industry, so that for me is really, really important. So just self-respect, respecting yourself as a brand, and of course, like I said, being authentic, and also your hard work. Your work ethic goes a long way, whether you're a male or a female. If you work hard and if you're passionate about what you do, it will show, and people will see that as well.
Absolutely, Zintle. Talking about respect, talking about adapting, and again, reliability as well as staying authentic. I mean, people like me and you, obviously, we fall prey to either cyberbullying or just bullying in general, because I can
Correct.
imagine the comments that you would get on your social media post based on just your appearance. I know
Yes.
myself, I get a lot of flack. Number one, I'm pretty tall. I'm tall. Number two, as you can hear, this is not a manipulated voice. I have a big voice, right?
Yes.
Number three, my name is Dumisani, and we all know it's a boy's name. My grandmother didn't care. She was like, she was breaking gender stereotypes in 1986 already. So my grandmother was like, please, that's your name, that's it. So, I mean, with that said, obviously, Zinhle, you do have a pretty face, but you've got a lot of muscle as well,
Yes. Correct.
What are some of the comments that you do get on your social media, and how do you, because you need a certain level of emotional intelligence, emotional maturity to know how to respond to these people, knowing that they are trying to drag you into the mud?
Correct. Dumi, you're so right. I mean, looking like this in 2021 is taboo, especially as a woman of color. And for me, I've always gotten flack of the way I look, but I've always known why I look the way I do. Coming from an abusive relationship, I told myself I'm going to my body. I'm going to get a stronger body. Why? To be intimidating to a male counterpart. That should a man come to me, he needs to think 50 million times, like, am I really going to come at this girl or not, or this woman rather? So for me, I've always said, I'm going to be true to myself. I know why I'm doing this. A lot of people do things on social media for likes, for comments, etc. And not everyone is doing things for their own journey. You know,
Yes.
I mean, when I shared my story about being in an abusive relationship, a lot of people didn't believe it, but it made sense to them that, oh, Zinhle has these muscles, or she looks like a man because she wants to scare men. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
but I mean, in the beginning, it used to touch me. It really did used to touch me. When people would come and say nasty things about me. But like I said, once again, I remembered my why, and that is one
Yes.
thing that kept me going.
No, absolutely. Your why is important. And over to you, Katie. I mean, TV industry, cyberbullying, people are just sitting on their couches at home and they feel they have the right to just tweet whatever they want to tweet and just say whatever they want to say, whether no one really even cares if you've had a bad day or not, because they just opinionated and want to give or share of their opinion. How have you been able to stay strong, stay calm, keep a level head when such comments come through, either coming directly at you while you are busy at work, or even in your own workspace where you're a producer?
You know, the key thing that you mentioned early on is, as women of color, we are our own worst enemies. We get flack from our own kind. We get flack from our own community. So we don't have to worry about people out there. So yes, there are the keyboard warriors, you know, which we all call them keyboard warriors. It's so easy to sit back and tell people, you know, as a woman of color, as a Muslim Indian girl in this industry, I have got flack for decades, because again, we have a voice, and as women of color, we are not meant to have a voice. We need to be a certain kind. We need to say the right things. You know, I remember when I had a television talk show years ago, and the one email that I got at one time, it wasn't even social media. It was, it will be it is very evident that you're not married to a Muslim guy, because no Muslim guy would allow you to speak like that. And, you know, if you are not strong-minded and strong-willed, these things do take, you know, take precedence over your mindset, and you cannot allow that. But cyberbullying is such a real thing, because not a lot of people actually feel strong enough, mentally strong enough. And, you know, I had great role models in my media career. And I remember, you know, Basisana Kumala, who's been one of my greatest role models, who said to me, because I used to really get, you know, flack because I was, you know, seen as amateur. And I always take that. And, you know, where she says, it's you and the camera, forget about the rest of the world. And she would say, you cannot please everybody all the time. You are going to be something wrong if you are pleasing everybody all the time. So do you, girls, you know, do you. And I think cyberbullying has gone so bad. You know, I just posted something after having, you know, recovered from my COVID trauma. And the one thing people said, the first thing people said, oh, I see you back in action but I posted a picture that I had taken months before, but people just see the picture and they like, oh, you know, you just now back into makeup and back into clothes. So people are not looking at your story that you're saying, but they're looking at the pictures. And I think for me, it's again is we are human beings. We cannot always ignore everything somebody says. However, you need to sometimes internalize and say, is it true? Are they just being unkind? And that's how you deal with those kind of things. And again, not everybody is as strong as all of us here on this panel. So that is why it is so important to be kind on social media. And we so easily, we believe in this cancel culture that we talk about. We also so easily, you know, just want to cancel someone on social media because they might have said something. But again, we don't know what happened on that day for them to have behaved. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie, for that. So, Sis Tembile, thank you for joining us. I know you did have a bit of connectivity problems there, but just back to our viewers, if you are tuned in, kindly share your questions, your comments. If you would like to ask any of the panelists a question, or just make a comment and we can bring it up on screen and address it. I think just to go back, you know, one thing that I always refer back to when someone tries to downplay your transformation, because I call it a transformation. The moment you break out of your shell, you become someone else, you become a completely different person. And it's warranted, because the person you were before your transformation is not going to sustain you where you're going. It's not going to sustain you when you become and you transform into the person you're transforming into. This takes me to a meme that is been widely shared on social media, where it's a round table. There's a worm on the one side and a butterfly on the other side, and the worm is complaining, "Oh, geez, but you've changed." And the butterfly responds and says, "But we are supposed to change." We are supposed through life to get into a shell, into a cocoon, and I will call that the process of life. The challenges, the struggle, going into training and getting an education is part of that transformational process. When you come out on the other side, you come out as this butterfly. And yes, sometimes that process takes long. That process might be painful. You might lose friends, you might lose family. Things might not always go as planned. But the person you were as a worm is not going to last when you get to being a butterfly. So there has to be some sort of transformation there. So I really enjoy that meme when I do see it.
but on that note, sorry, on that note, the people that you have when you are a worm are not necessarily able to transform with you when you're a butterfly. So they can, so even though they find you changing, they're not equipped to deal with you there, and that's their problem, not your problem. And that's what happens, is they still see you as this worm, and they don't know how to handle you as a butterfly. So then I always say, but that's your problem, not my problem.
Yeah, true story. Because also remember, people get comfortable with you being a worm, because that's the familiar. And then when life, depending on your goals or your aspirations of where you want to be, and you allow the processes of life to transform you in that cocoon, and then next thing, boom, magic happens, you come out of a butterfly, and like, no, but you've changed. We are supposed to change. It's called growth. It's called women breaking out of their shells and being unstoppable. Talk about being unstoppable, Sister Pili. Can you educate our audience, please, on the key brand reputation management processes? I think we touched lightly on this earlier. And also some of the key aspects to keep in mind when either managing or creating, preserving, improving your brand and or reputation.
Great. So I did speak earlier on that to manage a reputation, you must stand for something. So what is firstly and mostly important is to first articulate who you are. By that, I mean your positioning. So you are saying, I am Stembile and I stand for greatness. So everything I touch, absolutely, I vow it will it will turn into greatness. So that's me and my proposition. So that is what is important first in reputation management. It's to know who you are and your positioning, because when you know, then you will know what then how to behave. I spoke about the guidelines. So some of the guidelines, for instance, speaks to content is king. Content is king in the sense that whatever you then create or you develop as your material, as your content, as your posts on social media platforms has to be aligned with who you are as a brand, as well as your vision. So it's important that as women, whether in sports or in business, you have to know, number one, who you are. I always say, in marketing, we started with the 4 P's in marketing. They later translated into 5 P's in marketing. Now we're talking about 7 P's in marketing. They keep on growing because the universe itself evolves. So is reputation management. So you have to know your audience, the people. One of the P's speak to the people. What kind of people are you going to be targeting with your content? And exactly where will you find those people? So it then speaks to your location, your place, essentially. But also what I found mind-boggling is that sometimes people say, Sembile, come and do this for us. How much would you charge? And I'm like, charge? Because I've not even gone to a place where I can articulate my price. You see, I'm a marketer. I have not done to articulate my price or what I think my worth should be. And it's important that in sports that people should know, because, you know, when you go and negotiate or sell your value proposition to your potential sponsors, you must be very clear about these fundamental 4 Ps that we speak about in marketing, because those are the 4 Ps that will inform your reputation plan or your reputation management plan. So handling yourself in professionalism and ensuring that your content is unique and is memorable. Now, unique comes from your personified experiences. So I'm Stembile. I always say to people, you know, I know there's no other Stembile. Mina, I went to Mangosuthu Emlazi and I'm from Emlazi from high school to primary. I'm Emlazi chick, right? Now, boom, 96, I came, now I'm revealing my age. 96, 97, I come to Johannesburg. Oh my gosh, I am in this training program and I'm with girls and guys my age, but my goodness, the English that they were talking, you know, oh, the accent, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm coming with my Mlazi accent. Hey, look at Mlazi now. I go back and I tell my homies and I said, look at Mlazi now, because I could have crumbled because my reputation, I was more looking at myself, more, I think, inferior, or the confidence was not there. But I remembered why I exist. I remembered why I came, you know, to Joburg. So equally important to reputation. That's why I keep on linking it to the story of remembering your vision, remembering that you are a dreamer. Everybody is born when we are a child, and they say at school, oh, well, when Tina, we went to public schools, they would say myself, you know, first homework statement you get given is to say, who is Tembile? So you say you're myself and your dreams. And we really, really, you know, I had dreams. What I'm glad is that some of those dreams are now happening at the age that I am. And I'm thinking it's perseverance. It's this reputation that over time you build. So as I'm building with Tembile, I can tell you now that it must have been 6 years ago when I realized, actually, you are a brand. You are a brand once you've occupied a space in somebody's head. That chooses to listen to you, that chooses to follow you, that chooses to reach out to you. So you've already converted them to be, you know, your liker or a consumer, your own consumer of your own content. So I ultimately became that brand. And for me, then I knew that what worked for me is these reputation guidelines that I've been, you know, building over the years. You can't be a person now and expect your reputation to move from 0 to 100. And what kills most people is the pace. The pace, the instant gratification. I see Uzinhle and I say, yo, Uzinhle, now I can do it. And I do all sort of wrong things. I don't even know, by the way, how Uzinhle's story motivated her to be where she's at. But because my point of departure or where I'm informed is totally wrong, it's off the mark. That's what actually messes up reputation. So to bring it back to the guidelines, you have to be authentic. You have to share the content that is memorable, and it will be memorable because you are sharing your personal experiences. That is what shapes your reputation. And also making sure that your character has to resonate with something that means, you know, that stands for a bigger purpose. So the day I used to work on breads, and I would go to that factory and I would see how they bake breads, so that I can confidently speak about, you know, the brand that I'm working on and the process. So I had to be informed. I went to diapers, I went to cooking, you know, with Norox and Unilever and so forth. That taught me how to be a great brand reputation management, because I can speak on those brands because I understand the process and I understand the intricacies involved in building up that particular brand. And I wouldn't want the efforts that I'd put behind in building that brand to just crumble over something that is lousy. What is important is to also know, as a reputation management guideline, it's okay to have a coach that is going to help you to deal with crisis. It doesn't say you are weak. You will not sit on that social media, try to respond to everyone. Absolutely not. Value your time. Avoid the snowball effect. Know when not to speak. You just have to know that, you know what, this thing, just trust your gut that this thing is going to spiral into other avenues and become much more bigger. But that, you know, that comes with experience And also that comes with understanding that, not everything has to end up on social media platforms.
Yes.
Anything at all, whatever ends up on your platform, let it be about a part of your story. So keep your audience lingering on to say, okay, I wonder what today she's posting about. So it's sports. Talk about your sports, your journey, because you are also inspiring others. That's how you'll get a quality following, by the way. I'm not talking about those quantitative numbers. I'm talking about qualitatively. You get people that are going to add value, and you will also give them value. So part of that is really about that reputation and protecting that reputation, controlling your mind. We can be so schizo on social media, let me tell you, especially Twitter, because you can hide your identity, so you can say whatever you want. And I always say it's the most negative platform. If you really, if you are a weak person, you might even sometimes, Lord forbid, you might even be so, fall into a depression mode. But if you knew that you can control yourself and control your mind and avoid those controversial topics, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the issues, we are talking about the issues of race sometimes, and we loosely, say statements, and you forget that you are a brand that is going to go and do a presentation or make a presentation seeking help. That's why I always advise brand custodians to be relevant in a manner that is that is based on purpose. So, we know we've got national priorities. Why don't you just look in your national priorities and look at the direction of where your country is going from a vision perspective, from a strategy point of view, and then say, how do I then pitch myself there within those strategies? There are so many things that are not going right, with this country. So crime, how can I play my part as a person that can be a brand and then position as an activist around, the issues of GBV, the issues, of race, for instance, and making sure that I'm playing my part, issues of poverty alleviation, so that you tighten up your value proposition in such a way that even if you were to speak on a podium, people, they will not look at you as a sports person, but they will start to look at the meaning, the purpose, and understand what drives you. That is what reputation is all about. Find those beautiful nuggets that links to a bigger picture where you are not touching just one person, but you are touching lives. And that's what's going to make your story more meaningful and more sustainable, and I think more relevant as well, because then people will start to think about Dumisani, Katie, and Zinhle differently and say, okay, it's just not, pretty faces, or it's not just, masculine bodies, sexy bodies. It's actually women that are going to be the change makers of this country, and we need those. So if we find them in sport, it's a brilliant thing. For me, that says it's a brilliant thing, because sports, you can work hard. Some are born with it, but imagine if we can convert a lot more to be just aware of what reputation is all about, and really just aim to do great things and aligning yourself with your essence and your DNA. And so I suppose, just to wrap it up, is just for those that have not done that homework, go back and just articulate those 4 P's. If you want, go to 7 and then stop at 7. 7 also, by the way, includes, because then it becomes complicated, but 7 includes your reasons to believe. So like Zinhle's profile, that she has, won this and that and this, those are evident stuff that you start to then talk about each and use them as nuggets, and then talk about the journey as you dissect it. Let that be your content. Forget about other stuff and that are frivolous. Say, now, this is who I am, and that is what your reputation will be. Brilliant, magnificent, and it will attract more sponsors.
Attracting more sponsors and getting back to our discussions from yesterday. But we're still here. We're talking about women breaking out of their shells and being unstoppable, being unapologetic with their goals, their aspirations, their achievements, and also respecting themselves enough to realize that they are brands. How do they then present themselves as brands? How do they enhance that brand, improve that brand, build that brand? Also understanding the value proposition that you bring to either any table, any organization, any sponsor that might want to come on board and sponsor you. I think also it's very important to keep in the back of our minds as well that, yes, value proposition is then influenced by your attitude, your behavior. It's influenced by you being authentic and knowing what it is that you then bring. You're aligning what you are bringing with what you are standing for. That then speaks volumes for your reputation and yourself as a brand. So talking about brands and reputation and breaking out of your shells, Katie, do you have a specific moment that you maybe know, or you can recall that you literally, this moment was when I had to break out of my shell and show the world all the glory that comes with being Katie Mohammed, that comes with being in Katie Mohammed's sphere of influence? Defining moment.
When I was born.
I love that.
There are certain individuals that walk on this earth. I think we undervalue ourselves, and then there's some that overvalue ourselves. And I think we need to understand that when we put that like a defining moment, we kind of undervaluing ourselves. So for me, it's we are all born with greatness, like Stembile say. It is how we create ourselves and take ourselves to the next level. For me, you spoke about transformation. I mean, a lot of people who know me for a long time will see my transformation and how I've evolved over the time. And your brand is your gateway to your success and how you create it, what tools you make it. So it can never always be one defining factor. And I always say is if you are not going to be creating this brand, somebody else is going to do it for you. So you might as well always, you must always be on top of your business. And so, like with Zinhle as well, it's like you build a brand according to your lifestyle, then your audiences will follow. They will follow. And when you talk about when was the defining moment, I always say is people talk about this personal brand, but if you take brand out of it, you get the word personal. And personal is you. So it's like that is the secret, literally, is that you take personal brand and you say, it's personal. It is me. How do I become greater? How do I get into my greatness? And how do I create something that is further to what I was, what I did 5 days ago, 5 years ago. So it's an evolution, it's a transformation. And I think the wisdom and knowledge you get from people along your way is so important. For me, I am like a sponge. Wherever I go, I pick up things that people talk about. And then some people ask, how do you know about all of these things? It's because I make sure I'm on a conscious level. I understand what is going on with people, with things that are around. So I think for me, it's really about also, in order for you to find yourself to be great, you have to work at it. It's a constant, it's like as an athlete, you can't just say, I'm born with this talent and then go out there and run a 100-meter race. No, you've got to work at it. So for me, it's a continuation of it. It's really, like I always say, is let us not undervalue yourself. And we have this imposter syndrome as women, where we don't think that we're good enough. And when we stand out there, and all of us, are so confident, the four of us that are sitting here, other women will judge us to say that, oh, we think we all that, or this, or that. That's what happens. And that's what happens when people become, am I not good enough? So we have this imposter syndrome. And the moment we understand that the imposter syndrome is going to cripple us and cripple our growth, then we realize I want to value myself. I want to know my true worth. And really, it's really about, our time is so limited on this earth. We also sometimes, and I think when you think about, look at Serena Williams in her greatness at her age, is doing great things. We also sometimes think we are going to get there. I'm too young now. As an athlete, and Z as well, is that there is no time. You gotta strike with iron is art, because there's going to be someone younger and fitter and. So I think it's important. It's about really being inspired, being motivated, because inspiration exists. We must just find what works for us. And then you walk in your greatness.
Yeah. walking into your greatness obviously will require you to get up, get out of your shell, break a few boundaries, and also have a bit of positive self-esteem, self-confidence to know that you are unstoppable, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that you own your greatness, you own your authenticity, you know who you are, you know your proposition, you know your value. And I mean, yeah, if I look at the time right now, it's 1 o'clock. It's almost time for me to break out of this shell and go into my other shell, which is the netball shell. I think this is the perfect time for me to call onto the screen my co-program director, who will then take us through and help us land this aeroplane, this 4-day trip that we've been taking with the South African Women in Sports Foundation. And that person is none other than one of the founding members, Mayor Ntambi Ravele, who herself is a marketing expert, and she can come in and give us her opinion on what she thinks reputation management is. And as she does that, I will slowly start removing myself from this platform and go back to where I know I perform best, not just on the screen, but on the netball court. So, Ntambi, please do share and give us a little bit of what your understanding of brand reputation management is.
Thank you very much to Misani, and thank you, the panel. My understanding, and I will put it very simple, it's me. Because of wherever I go, I must know that I'm a brand. And as I'm a brand, I should actually have some certain way of behaving. I cannot behave wherever I am or wherever I go like my 10-year Ntambi. I'm now an executive. I now sit in boards, and wherever I go, that should always be in my mind, and that I represent a brand, and that brand should be a positive brand. I don't know whether I explained it very well.
Nah, I think you did a pretty good job. And I do realize, and I hope our viewers at home or wherever they're tuning in from all over the world do realize that they are in good hands. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for the past hour. Me and my pretty voice, yes, pretty voice. You can call it big, you can call it bold. For me, it's mine, it's authentic, it is pretty. Me and my pretty voice have to take ourselves all the way to the netball court where we put it to good use and the players can hear me loud and clear. So please do carry on and enjoy the rest of the session. Remember, we are live on the SAWASF Facebook page, SAWASF website, as well as the YouTube channel. Whenever you post something, whether you're sharing something, remember hashtag SAWASF, hashtag no to GBV, hashtag women leaders, hashtag gender equality, and my favorite one, hashtag women in sport. Love you lot. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Just
Thank you very much, Misani. Coming back, Zinhle, you are a brand, and you have built your brand.
Yes.
Yes, I would love to hear more about how did you started it, and how do you maintain it? Because of it's not only about building the brand; it's about also maintaining. So, how did you do it?
So personally for me, I mean, I never really thought of myself as a brand. I always thought of myself as that girl that's on Instagram and flexing her muscles, you know. And I got introduced to a young man by the name of Umtogosizi Dladla, and he helped me with a bit of PR. I remember when I was with him, every single week I was either on TV, on radio, in a newspaper, in a magazine, and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm a big deal. You know, however, I still remained humble in that regard. And I mean, I came from corporate, and then when I got to change from work last year, I thought to myself, you know, I've always wanted to give this my all. You know, focus on me, focus on Z Fitness, focus on Gates Wellness as a brand. And I got a team behind me. I did a full rebranding where I did now the holistic approach to living, because I've always just focused on physical fitness. You know, but I never focused on financial fitness. I never focused on life fitness. And then that's when I then created something like Z Fitness, which is a holistic approach to wellness. And I think the one thing that's helped me to stay relevant till today is because I also change and I start peeling off to my audience. Katie touched on something about personal, where you take away brand and it just personal stays. So people want to know who you are. As much as I'm an influencer, people want to know about my life. They want to know about my family. They want to know about my flaws. They want to know about my failures. And that's why I also give that to them. And I tell them, guys, I remember I got stabbed when I was jogging last year during lockdown, and I was in a very dark state where I couldn't move. Imagine me, a person who's so active and I can't move, and I was telling people that this is what I'm going through. And I think also social media has made us believe that everything is always so perfect that we are afraid to talk about the things that we can't do, or when we are not in a good space. So I think for me, I've been able to open up and, like I said, peel myself off to my audience. And I think one thing, also another thing, it always blows my mind. When I go into a store and the cashier recognizes me from TV or from a magazine feature, or an Uber driver, when I get into aren't you Zinhle? Aren't you that girl that was training the people on TV? So for me, I still don't see myself as a big deal. I merely see myself as a social media influencer, and of course an advocate for a holistic life, holistic wellness. Sorry. So when someone says to me, "Yo, you somewhat a celebrity," I don't get it. But I really think when it comes to being a brand, you need to also understand that you carry some sort of responsibility, because at the end of the day, I mean, if I'm going to be a Play Your Partner ambassador, I need to understand the ethos and the values of Play Your Partner, and of course portray that wherever I am. People should be able to tell, whether I tell them or not, that no, Uzinhle is with a specific brand because of the way that she handles herself, the way she carries herself, her poise, So I think it's very, very important for us to understand as brands that we carry a huge responsibility, because over and above being a personal brand, I also represent other brands. And I think that's very, very important, because like I said, they also have their own values, they also have their own ethos, and I need to align myself with them, with those as well. Yeah.
Oh, great. You've touched so many things that I relate very well, because of most of our followers are sports administrators, and some of them are participants, and they have to deal with their brands as they are growing. And the fact that the more you grow, the more you get attention from people. Like you are saying, to say at the beginning, I just thought I was just doing it. But now when you go to the shop, people start identifying you as Zinhle. And not just as Zinhle, but they link you with a lot of other activities that you do. What will you tell a young sportswoman who in her career, she's moving up the ranks, and she wants to build her brand?
I think people need to understand that Rome was not built overnight. A lot of people, I think, I'm not too sure between Sistembile or Katie, I don't know who touched on it, that they'll look at Zinhle, she's got this many followers, she's got these many brands that she's working with, but they don't understand the time that it took, and they don't understand the work that it took. They don't understand the tears, the blood, and the sweat. So I think more than anything, work hard. No one can ever take that away from you. I've always said it. The amount of work that you put in, no one can take away from you. And of course, it's something I touched on earlier on, respect yourself. That for me is a big, big thing, especially as a female in a male-dominated industry. Self-respect is so important, because the last thing you want is people sitting in an office and saying, Uzinhle, we've all, had an encounter with her. And you don't ever want that, whether you start at a young age or even now in your 20s or so on. So I think whatever you're doing, and always have the end goal in mind. I think everything that you do today as a 13-year-old wanting to be like a Dumisani, think of how is this going to impact the 30 year old that I'm going to be in the next 17 years. So for me, I really think just begin with the end goal in mind. Work hard. Just know you are going to get no's. No's are part of the process, but don't let them define you. You know, I've gone to so many I've knocked on doors and they would say no, and I would knock and they would say no, and I would knock and they would say no, but eventually it does open. I mean, coming from marketing, I understand you need to knock 7 times. You'll get 7 no's, and then eventually you'll crack a yes. But also understand that there is a time to just let go. If something is not working, let go of it. You know, and I think also just making sure that whoever you work with is aligned with your values, your values and your ethics. You know, I cannot work with someone who doesn't believe in prayer, for argument's sake, or someone who doesn't believe in working hard, you know, who would rather just bribe, and that's that, you know. So I think also just alignment is something that's very, very important. And yeah, I did touch on hard work, hey?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Zinte. Guys, hashtag SAWASF, hashtag no to GBV, and hashtag to women in sport, hashtag to gender equity. We want to see gender equity very soon, but we should be ready for it. We should make sure that we build ourselves to be brands, that wherever we go, we are recognized as brands. And Site, you work a lot with brand ambassadors. And sports organizations, most of especially with women in sport, most women now are appointed as ambassadors. What are the things that you would say are do's and don'ts for you to be able to be a good ambassador? Because most of them who are listening now are actually looking at themselves being future ambassadors of some form of organizations or companies.
Thank you. You know, being an ambassador for a particular brand, if I were to explain it in a layman's term, means there is a shared vision between you and that brand. So I always say, you know, a criteria that most companies should follow, or anyone for that matter who want ambassadors, is to first see if there's an alignment in vision, because that is almost like a mutual partnership. There won't be much of a hard work, because that person epitomizes what the brand stands for. So, and then we unpack and we look at then the values of the brand. So if, for instance, I'll use Leopard as an example. Leopard simply says you must be a person that is already doing something in your community. So, which means that is why there's already a shared vision there. We are advocating for people to rally behind the brand South Africa, to say, come shine, come hail, come rain. I am a proud South African at heart. And therefore, what it means, I'm going to wear my flag and live the brand in a true manner. So it means your character, your values, your DNA must be aligned with the brand. So I think what people tend to fall into a trap of is to think just because I'm an ambassador, then I'm going to just speak any given moment in time about, you know, South Africa, without even aligning with the brand custodian to say, hang on, firstly, this is a new platform, and I think there's an opportunity for me to leverage and pull the information of what Leopard is all about into this crowd. Can I go ahead and do it, and so forth? And I think that's what sometimes tend to happen, that disconnects, when people, just because they think they have then the autonomy. No, you don't have autonomy as such. You can never have autonomy when you're an ambassador, as long as you are saying you because it's partnership. So what I often see that disconnect then is somebody will go and do something that is off tangent. So if you know that the values of building a country is about Ubuntu, is about, you know, the possibilities, it's about determination, and there you are on social media, you are doing everything that contradicts that, it's a total big no. It's a no. So Uzinhle is quite right when she says you have to look at the values and the characters and say, how do I then become a true epitome of what the brand is all about? And that is how we basically use as our guidelines. But also, if you're an ambassador, and it's equally important, is to live the brand. We have a number of ambassadors. Sometimes they forget about Brand South Africa. They forget about play your part. And then you have to say, hi, boo, let me just phone this person. Do you remember you're an ambassador? And an ambassador means living the brand. And living the brand simply means if you see something being posted, and you also have to amplify that by reposting, resharing it, because we already share the same vision. So those are the do's of being an ambassador. Always being relevant, always being present. Being present is very important because you are present to the vision, you are present to the programs of the brand, you are present to the articulation of the brand. So even if it's on social media, even if being physically there, that is what living the brand is. And that's why people sometimes often fail dismally when it comes to brand ambassadorship, because they forget to live the brand. Or it could be sometimes that they came into the partnership but not being present, not being fully present. And it's quite important to be fully present. And I always get a flag. Do you monitor? So equally important as an ambassador, monitoring, evaluation is important to building any brand, to be quite honest with you. So part of the ambassadors or ambassadorship program is to actually be able to reflect and say, okay, let me have a look at my network of ambassadors, assess, and also ensure that you continuously engage them, because sometimes really they keep quiet because you as a brand custodian are quiet. So it's a two-way street. It takes us also reaching out to them and saying, okay, come on, this is a briefing session. These are the key things that are going to be happening in our country. Let's support the Springboks. Let's support it. Right now, we were in Japan for the Olympics. We did a call to action to our ambassadors, mobilizing them. Come on, let's fly the South African flag. Let's get our South Africans to believe in themselves and actually take the determination spirit out there. So those are the good ambassadors were on board. We were amplifying those messages. That is what good ambassadors is. In a nutshell, it really is about living the brand. And which means you have to understand the vision, you have to understand the proposition, you have to be in tune with each other and make sure that there's continuous dialogues and engagement. That's how you build on that, build ambassador. Because you build a great relationship, but it can equally be catastrophic in a second, so that is why it's quite important that continuously there has to be that engagement that afford both parties to actually leverage of each other and learn and be the best.
Oh, great. Ladies who are listening, you got now the message. Now, when you want to be an ambassador, Lydia, what to do. So, but also, once people select ambassadors, they also look at their networks, whether you do have the network. But one thing, Katie, that I observe is that why do women's networks don't last on the? You would have many networks, but there are some networks that don't last, and mostly, if you check, it's more on a women's group. What are those? Why do we have such issues?
I always say men do it so well. Men do it so well. When men talk, they talk I. I have done this, I have that. When we talk, we say we. And we forget that the we, not everyone is supportive of the we. So why our networks don't last is because we are not authentic with each other. We do not want the best for each other. And again, I always say this, whether it's because it's women of color, and maybe we come from a generation where we needed to scramble to get to the top. Now, all of a sudden, I feel a lot of women want to be the only person in the room. And that is why, in my empowerment agenda is it's all about having a seat at the table. If you have a seat at the table, pull up chairs for other women. And and not everyone sees that, and you know what, you can't what's the word, you can't fault them for that, because not everyone wants to bring each other along, and that is okay, that is their journey. But rather stick with people. If you're networking with someone and 2 or 3 times you know that relationship is not going anywhere, walk away. Walk away. Don't blame them. Walk away, because you know there's going to be somebody else. I mean, I met Z via someone else. Now Z and I, you know, we like know each other forever. You know, Stembile, it's the same. The people that matter, the people that have the same value system as you, and we talk about value system, will stay in your network, will see the opportunities. And I think we often feel entitled that some of our networks need to work. They don't necessarily need to work for us, because it's either we are protected as well, because you don't know what might happen there. So, you know, God sometimes protects us for some of our networks not working. And I think for me is sometimes our networks don't work for us is because we don't take our criticism, we take it seriously. We need to take it, you know, Hillary Clinton says, you need to take it professionally. And because sometimes I think we all that, and like everybody must work with us, and again, it's what have you done to create that? So that's why it's always, you need to be visible. You need to be visible in the right way. So when people see that you want to be part of a network, you already come with a great reputation. You come with great positive bags that you're taking forward. So then it works, because I think for me it's we try to just think networks are like yesterday. It's an investment. And what are you doing? What are you contributing to this network? Because, you know, I actually did a video the other day about my COVID experience, and how people and connections became the balm for my soul, because I sat and I was like, oh my God, I was in such a bad space, but the great networks around me contributed to my recovery. So, and then I look back and I reflected on it, and with humility, it was because of the person I am, and it was about my investment, and it has nothing to do with money. It's about being caring, being in service of others, you know, being supportive. So when you are in need, 200 people come together to say, how can I help you? And so I think it's also, we need to think about how to invest in our networks and how it can work for us. And for me, it's also about trying to be centered, because when we are centered, we can see a lot of things ahead that might work and might not work. As women, I say this all the time in most of my empowerment. Some of us are our own worst enemies. However, we all are not that, and that is why they say your vibe attracts your tribe attracts your vibe, or something like that. Go where the love is, because when we go where the love is, it's okay if somebody doesn't want to support you. I mean, we all have that between the four of us. You know, here we have people that don't want the best for us, or they were like, oh, that Katie, or that Stembile, or that Z. It's okay. The ones that are rooting for you are the ones that you want to hang out with. So don't force the networks. I think for me, I always say don't force them, because it needs to be seamless. You know, it needs to be seamless. And, you know, a lot of people always say that, you know, you are the queen of networking, or this or that. And I always say it's because of the brand I built, my personal brand that I built, that there's a trust factor. There's a valued system. I try to be as centered as possible. I'm not I'm also flawed, but I try to be centered as possible. So, and also, you know, your intention. Why are you networking? Do you want do you want it to work for you because you want to be seen with pictures of influential people, or do you want to be an intent is extremely important of why you want to network. because I also drive mentorship programs, and a lot of these youngsters want to be mentored purely because somebody is famous, not that somebody can give them value. A couple of years ago, I had one of my friends was mentoring somebody, and she did not want her parents at her graduation because she felt that this mentor would make her look good. And that is where we lose ourselves. So intention is really great. And what is the purpose of why you want to network? So for me, is be authentic, be intentional, and be purposeful.
Yeah.
And then it will work for you.
It will work for you. Zinhle, do you want to add something on networking?
For me, I really think basically what Katie was saying, that it's about going where the love is, and you helping another sister takes nothing away from you. I read something earlier on Instagram today. It was like it said, if you light up, what did it say? If you light up your lantern for someone else, your path automatically becomes lightened. So I feel that there is so much value, there's so much that comes out of helping each other out, where, because Katie, maybe you don't know, you helping me, what that will do to for you, and vice versa. So for me, I really think that if we start building a sisterhood rather than women empowerment, but I think a sisterhood where we have shared values, like you said, and we all speak the same language, and we also understand that I can't be Miss Know It All. I should be able to take criticism from Sis Tembile. If Sis Tembile comes to me and says, Zinhle, you know what? I think you can chop and change here. I should be able to take that and say, I know she's coming from a good place. Let me implement it, and I'll see how far that can take me. But I think really just having a shared value, and like I said, creating a sisterhood that is also that we will find safe. I mean, we as women go through a lot, gender-based violence, for instance sake. I should be able to have a sisterhood that I can go to and say, ladies, listen, this is what I'm going through right now. I need you guys to hold my hand. I think we preach a lot about women doing well in work, equality, and I think we then start to neglect our emotions, and what actually makes us women. And I think once we start taking power in that, and taking pride in that as well, I think that's what's actually going to set us apart from the gents there,
Yes.
So so I think it's just that. I think just having a sisterhood where we can hold each other's hands and we can learn from each other, and like I said, just give. Trust me, it takes nothing. It takes absolutely nothing. Me plugging another girl on a campaign takes nothing from me. So so that for me is something, definitely holding hands and helping another sister out.
This is a very important topic, because of, obviously, you need actually to also look at who do you bring into your network. Because you also don't want to bring people with negative energy into your energy. Sita, how do you spend your network?
At Brain South Africa, it's actually very difficult.
I know.
everyone is relevant, because everyone is relevant. And I always say, as long as the vision is the same, for me, that's what defines whether it's something that is worth pursuing or not, if the vision is the same. Similarly, when it even comes to me, from a personal perspective, I've realized that, what you thought was a good network when you were 25, 30, 40, it even 10, as you actually grow and you realize that actually my circle is becoming smaller from a personal perspective, because the people that having a crowd, and you would feel so comfortable that I have a crowd, but then the crowd, one catastrophic something, or because we live in a world, or in a frame where challenges come in. Look at COVID, what it has done. People have lost jobs, and it has questioned your circles, that can I really lean on these people that are called my friends or not? And it has exposed, a lot of us have been actually exposed that, wow, I thought I had a friend. Oh, wow. And it actually says, it teaches wisdom from these catastrophic encounters in life that we go through. One is able to grow and assess and reflect. And so to answer you, how do I continue with my network and assessing it and checking? I simply do one thing. I assess. I'm a great reflector. I'm also a great analyst. Not a bad analyst, but just an analyst. And I'm very realistic. For me, I've been criticized at home. They say, oh, there she comes, this one. There's a bit of a dreamer, but I'm also a very much realist. So it's very difficult to understand me because I then look at myself and I say, the people around me, am I adding value? I don't even ask if they're adding value. I first say me, now myself, am I adding value? Because if I'm not adding value, and then I wonder, what is it that they then see in me that they are continuously hanging around me? Then what is it? Is it really about gossip? And gossip is not sustainable. So do I want to entertain that? No, I don't. Then I remove myself. But because I know of my vision, my desired outcome, the prize, where I'm going, I always have to come back. And I wish my mom taught me this when I was way younger, because I could have mastered it at a very young age. I see that, my daughter is 18 and I see at school they are teaching them to do those things. And I say, hang on, it's good that we must teach even our neighbors, the kids that are not so privileged, to be exposed to those processes, to reflect. It's important to reflect. Why am I here? What is it? If you don't know, seek clarity. The Bible says, like Uzinhle was saying, I love the spirituality because I think I am who I am. It partially has to do with exactly being, in line spiritually with the Almighty, where he says, seek wisdom. If you don't have wisdom, I always pray for relationships. I always pray and I say, can the right people that complement whose Tembile is, can they come into my life? So those are the things that I excessively, and I do. If it's not prayer, I meditate and I give it to the universe that I will attract these people, and I would define them and I would believe. So equally important in building your network is that is the value of integrity. Is that value of being able to reflect and say, what can I do better for this network of women? And I'm very passionate about women by nature, and I believe it's a sad thing that women must be viewed as people that cannot, lean on each other. Because in a workplace, I can tell you 10 times women, you can interview them, they'll tell you the worst boss is a female. And it shouldn't be that way, because we give birth to kids. We know we have those maternal instincts. We're supposed to be nurturers in life, not, not these mean people that sometimes the world and the situation, circumstances changes us to be. And that's why if I'm faced with that situation, I often ask myself, I wonder what that person went through, because I am certain, being a female, that it had to do with circumstances. And then you then become more patient. I would say it's one of the tips that I give myself in the networking space. So patience, again, is important in building a network. Whether you are being patient, that they, see you as relevant, or they give you input, or it's you that say, I'm going to be patient with this person because I believe at the end it's going to be mutually beneficial for both of us. So in my network, essentially, everyone is important from a career perspective. And the fact that obviously one is managing the country brand, and obviously citizens want to feel important because they also want to play a role. So my rule of law is I welcome everyone, and then we always listen to the proposal. We try and find those ways of co-creating brilliant ideas and collaboration, and I always welcome them. And I say, as long as we've got this platform, which we have, which is playing your part, anything is possible under the South Africa that is filled with possibilities, a South Africa that is inspiring.
Wow, you are spending South African
She
so
is.
well. One thing I have learned, and especially when you join the network, which is an existing network, and it's for the first time that you are joining that particular network. I see people sometimes getting into the network and starting to say a lot of other things, and who they are networked with, and I think that's not the right thing. When you move into a new network, sit back and watch first and know people who are in that network. For you to be able, the time when you start sharing your experiences and whatever, you know who you're talking to. So most of the time, I see people coming in and already you classify them somewhere because of the way they entered the network. Do any one of you want to comment about that?
I can. Let me just, you know what kills the society? I'm going to be very honest with you. What kills society is being defined by titles.
Yeah.
If,
Yeah.
you know, if people were to understand that you are a person before you are a doctor, you are a person before you've put a title before a CEO. I am Stembile at heart. And what people how people get along is not because, you know, you are of your title, because that is not sustainable. If you're looking for a network that is sustainable, that is authentic, I have to get to know you from a personal with a perspective and a character perspective so that we complement each other. So I've seen sometimes why things go wrong because people fall in love with titles in their network. And then when things don't happen, they get disappointed. And I always say my rule of law in life, which is really about also integrity and really being personal to people. You know, I believe in personal touch. If I'm able to experience you as Untambi, you as Uketi and Nuzintle at a personal level, that's what is going to be the defining moment of our relationship. So personal experiences that are shared. We will only know when we sit and then I say, okay, this one, I know it and I feel it in my heart that this person is here to stay as my network, rather than, you know, being enticed by titles. To me, titles are meaningless, to be quite honest. Your network is powerful because of purpose and what you stand for and the shared experiences that complements.
And networks are very much important. Katie, I think you actually indicate that build your social capacity, your social capacity, your capital out of your network. And your network can bring you millions. They can do a lot for you if you use them correctly. Do you want to elaborate on that?
You know, credibility is extremely important. We spoke about a lot of things, including credibility.
Yeah.
And I think in order for you to, do you want to network with people that are not credible? No. They might be great, they might be powerful. No. So I think you also need to look at credibility and see how that can enhance you. Because I think often we want to connect with people in one sector. And if you look at us now, we're in the sporting sector. However, you've had sponsors from other sectors and. So in order for us to make that work, we need to open up a diverse group and not stick into your kind, say, oh, you know what, I'm just in branding, oh, I'm just in sport. Because that brand, or say that client might be the CEO of Nike today, but could also be the CEO of Nando's another day. But it's that credibility. So when you follow people along the way, what takes you to ensure that you maintain this relationship? Because when the person moves company or moves country, they might be in sport today or arts and culture tomorrow, but it's again how credible they were for you to be able to continue that relationship. And I think for us is to put it bluntly, we just think that networking is collecting cards. I have look here, I have a card of this minister or that president or whatever. And I think if we find out how meaningful that, also networking cannot only be about business. And you build the social capital that I talk about. You build friendships, you build relationships, and yes, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I have a lot of friends, I don't need more friends, but you do need more people in your life. And I think for me, it's I think also COVID has taught us that, before networking was always about events, where you go to an event and you network. Now, all of a sudden, how do you network with people that are just online? So that's also changed the dynamics of connecting. And what people have done, and it has worked even for me, is, direct messaging people, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram. However, I won't respond to someone that might follows me if I go through their page and they really are an angry human being, and they're aggressive and they're anti-government. And I would look at that before I respond as well. So that is why it's so important. We spoke about this, is what we post, what our personality is out there for people to actually continue these connections as well. So for me, it has changed the ball game of networking. Emailing people, and don't think that person is going to email you. We have an expectation. Oh, I've sent this person an email and that person never bothered. Do you know how many people that person might have had an email to that might not remember? So I often, when I do meet people, I email them and say, and make sure that I bring where they met me, who was with around, so that person might not maybe remember me, but oh yes, I kind of remember you. So I think that is what, again, on the networking thing, this is often I used to take pictures of people, and I was like, when I email you, I'm going to remind you that this was me, so you'll remember that you had met me.
Yeah.
And that's like, in case you forgot, I will take a picture, just in case, because you also need to be memorable for people to remember you. Whether it's your the way you speak, your tact, your humor. And again, just don't go and target someone. Oh, please, can I see you? I need to come and see you in an office for this presentation or this proposal, because then that person doesn't feel I'm only worthy because I have access to funds or I have access to the president or whatever. So I think it's important how you make people feel when you meet as well. So those are the I think the very key hardcore lessons that I've also learned along the way about how to maintain our relationships.
Wow, great. Time is running out now. Zinhle, what would be the things that you would say are do's and don'ts for anyone who want to build a personal brand? And also on the same discussion, if there is any training that which our viewers can follow if they want to try and build their personal brand.
I think for me, when you're building a personal brand, I think first of all you need to understand what your brand stands for. I think that's first and foremost before you start doing anything. So mine, I am Zinhle Masango. This is what I stand for. I stand for a holistic approach to wellness. That's the first thing that you need to do. And I think over and above that, it's of course, once again, being real and authentic. There's so much power in being unique and just being yourself, because there's no one who's like you. And once you start and you grasp that and you get that concept that my power is exactly that, that makes your personal brand a lot more stronger. And I think also being able to say no. I think sometimes we want to be people pleasers and just everything must go right. And even if something is not aligned with my ethics or my values, I'll do it because Sistembile is giving me this much money to invest in my company. I think we need to also start, especially as women, we need to start being firm and saying no to things that we don't want to do. And I think just on don'ts, I think just trying to be someone else. Do you know how much work it takes to try and be so? I honestly cannot imagine how like, you know what I'm saying? So I think being authentic, being true to yourself, and once again, I think I'm gonna sound like a broken record, because these are just values that I stand by. Just working hard, and get help. We're talking a lot today about networking, about expanding your network, about being versatile. And I think get all the help that you can get. if it means me being a play your part ambassador to do such a thing, I will come and get help from Mrs. Katie, from, I think that that's very, very important. And also, I don't know how to put this, but understanding your power.
Yes.
I think once you understand your power, and once you understand what your brand does and what your brand will do for other people, it just elevates it. It takes it to a whole nother level. So if I know that if I walk into a room and I tell ladies about what to eat for breakfast, I know they're going to listen to me because of the power that I have. I will not misuse or abuse that power, but I should be able to walk into a room and let people understand my power, and also for me to understand my power. Yeah.
Wow. But also, on the other hand, you shouldn't confuse the market about your brand. You shouldn't be
Correct.
having so many brands attached to her. It's Zinhle, a sportswoman, it's Zinhle, whatever. So try to channel your brand, your personal brand, to something that people can link with.
Can link to, of course. And that's what I was saying, that you need to be able to define what your brand is all about. I mean, the mere fact that I am doing a Fisher Waste campaign today and tomorrow I'm doing a sportswomen campaign, it goes to speak to the fact that I am about a holistic approach to wellness. Yes.
But you are still Zinhle. It's
Of
just
course.
that all these other things links up.
Precisely.
Site, what are the different on reputational management? I will tell you one thing that sports people don't realize sometimes. And this one, it's not only about women. It's all sportsmen and women. That when they criticize their federation, that's reputation.
Yes.
When they don't do when they don't have good governance in their sporting federation, then it's a reputational issue, and it affects the organization negatively. And sports, I find most of the time struggling to actually even position themselves to sponsors because of what they are doing behind the scene. So what are the do's and don'ts of reputation management?
Earlier on, I spoke about avoiding, so in a nutshell, choosing the battles.
Yeah.
I've seen as well, choose your battle. Not every battle is meant for you to comment on. So the first and foremost is to understand the bigger picture. And I think sometimes in sports, not only in sports, even in the creative arts industry, I've seen when artists, for instance, are frustrated, similarly as your sports people will be frustrated by the federations because maybe there's no money or there's not enough support. That when you go to social media, ask yourself what you are about to post, will it add positively to the situation, or will it detract, or will actually cause matters to go worse, in the sense that it will cause the spiral effect. I keep on talking about the snowball effect that we do not want to see. And I think sometimes it's good to have those sessions with between federations as well as the actual sports people together. They need to have those engagements where they almost remind each other of why they do what they do, and remind each other of the vision. Because I can tell you, I can go to any sports person and ask, do you know maybe the vision of a federation? They probably don't know. And the question is, has it been articulated clearly enough so that they buy into it and then they live that vision? Because once you understand the vision, it's like saying, you know what, I'll do or die. I believe in this. Therefore, I will not speak negatively. It's like you saying, this is my mom. No matter how much your mom flaws, and she flaws or she does this and that, but she's still your mom. Take the same mindset and say, here is the body that represents me as a sports person. Yes, they are not learning. I mean, they're making mistakes, but your role, reputation says first, how do I fix before breaking it or making it worse? That's the do's of reputation 101. How do I effect a positive change? And I plead with everyone that's in the sports fraternity to say, before you go and share that post, reverse it, rewind it, undo it, and say, if you were to come and present a positive spin, what would be the recommendation be? And then you post that recommendation. And I think once we force people, because it's easier, once we train or encourage people to get into the frame of mindset that is more solutions driven, rather than adding to the problem and exacerbating the problem. That's how we would win in life, with federations, in life, with our country, in life, with our personal relationships, because it doesn't help to zone in on the negative. So I always say, rather, it's best to always ensure that there's alignment. Reputation says there must be alignment, but reputation also says, let's make sure that everyone on board shares a commonality and they understand that commonality, whether it's a strategy or it's a vision, etc., etc. And it's equally important to reflect. Why things go wrong, people forget to reflect. In the midst of trying to evolve and catch up, you forget to fix the basics. And the basics sometimes is that communication, which is key in reputation management. Have you communicated with the people to unpack, what is happening, so that everybody is aligned? It is aligned in terms of the journey. That's how people, you build people that are great leaders. You build, star performers, because you continuously communicate with them and refresh and have new ways of introducing solutions, and even suggesting to them, like, how about a suggestion box? But I think that in my career, I've been told that reputation really has to do with personal touch and having with and dealing with passionate people. You have customers for life. In fact, my boss used to say P1 plus P2 equals CL4, which means P1 is personal touch plus passionate people, because when there's passion and you are still able to relate on a personal level, you have won those people. And I think reputation has to do that with that, and that's what I would implore most people to do, to try that, have that approach, personal touch, hang around with passionate people, and you will surely be able to manage any reputational dents.
I think you mentioned something that is very important, that communicate internally before you break it.
Yes.
And most of you get surprised when somebody is having something on the media, whilst internally you haven't first exhausted your internal process of discussing it. And I think as women also in working towards leadership and whatever, we need to realize that sometimes it's very much important to follow the processes internally.
Yes.
Before you actually start moving outside. Katie.
Yes.
What can you tell us as we are wrapping up around the networking?
I was just thinking about why we're here. Of course, from a sports like a sports body, a sports federation, and I want to bring it back to exactly that. These athletes and sportsmen and women have a talent, and they have these abilities. Some of us, like, how do they do that, and how can they do that? And I think if only they realize the responsibility that they have with this talent that is given them. So whether it's their community or their country as well, because sometimes they would say Katie Mohammed. Well, we know people would say Katie Mohammed from South Africa. So it's also a huge responsibility, because you carry the nation with you. And on saying that, so that's why brand is so important. That's why when they network, it's so important as well. Because when you can't get away from the fact is that you are from a country. So of course that accountability and responsibility is very huge. And I think with athletes, before they used to wait on a lot of the sporting bodies to find sponsors and support and if they could only stand out and improve on their brands, there would be a lot of people that will come, but also they will come to them as well because they're improving the brand. So we talk about building a brand, and we also talk about how to improve a brand. So if you've won 3 gold medals, it doesn't really mean now that, okay, that's it, I got this. It's how do you improve on that? Because again, it's that responsibility is to take other people along your journey as well. Whether you're in swimming or netball, it is a huge responsibility. And I think our athletes have to realize that there are voices of change, not only for their talent, for other things that come along the way. So for me, if they could take that avenue of networking and say, this is not only about me. I know that if we need something for a team to go to Russia or Tokyo, how can I now, because I'm the one that's the great networker, how can I ensure that my team takes? So if they have a great relationship with the bank brand, they must not wait for the sporting body. They must be able to say, you know what, give me an endorsement letter. I have great relationships in there. Maybe some of them are doing this, but I think, I have a friend that works with the Special Olympics, and I see that even with the Special Olympics, they don't have enough funding because, they're seen as lesser than the big, the ones, but they're the ones that are doing amazing work. So I think for me, it takes upon ourselves to say that we are so inspired, by the talent of athletes that we must be able to, as individuals, to say, how can we help? Like Zintle says, if she needs to go and talk about how to build a personal brand, or if Stay says, how can I support other people where I open up my stakeholder networks for? And I think for me, it's really, let us stop waiting on the governing bodies only to support this great talent. Because this is what I always say that has taken us through COVID is things like arts and culture and sport. So how can we use our networks to make sure that the sporting bodies are taken to the next level and leave politics aside? Because again, like I say, talent, what talent you have at 20, you're not going to have at 30. So let's leverage off that and let's be able to support each other and call out to us and say, do you know someone that can help this and whatever? And we are there to support our athletes here.
Thank you. With we always, and I was actually the one who was making more noise, indicating to them to say, on a daily basis, we have a South African in another country participating in sports or arts and culture. And those people are flying our flag as South Africa. But what they don't know, we need to educate them more, is the fact that by being in another country and being South African, anything that they do, wrong or right, affects the country. Some things that they do might be positive for the country, and some of the things might be negative. But most of the time, you find that those individuals are performing quite well. They're flying the flag of South Africa. And that's, again, it's something that it goes to the topic that was talking about reputational management, that whatever you do when you are out of the country, also know that you are carrying your country on your shoulder. South Africa. Am I right, Site?
Absolutely. How the world sees South Africa entirely depends on how South Africa is positioned and the posture that people actually take when they're out there flying the flag. So you are very much important.
That's good.
Equally important, if I may add, if I may add, the reason why we do not know is because people are not telling our story. They're not telling their stories.
So tell your story.
Building a brand in reputation management, tell your story. Please,
Yep.
it's important because that's how you will get traction.
Wow, thank you so much. Dumisani did indicate that our conference started on Wednesday. Today is the last day, and we had been having followers who had followed our conference since day one until today. Some of them I've realized that they subscribe on our YouTube so that they can actually later on go and watch and listen. But all in all, I think the most important people, it's you guys who sit down and prepare to engage with us on our discussion and actually to empower our women in sport network, because why we do these conferences, it's more to empower women. We realize that most of the time women are not empowered. When you go to the networks that Katie was talking about, you go there without knowledge, but our conferences and our webinars that we do every month, we try to make sure that we empower women so that when they join any other network, they should be at their best and they should be knowing what to do. And that's why we thought at the end, the last area that we should focus on, its reputation, its brand, how to build your brand, and also how to build a network, because of that is actually more on personal development. And we thought it would be important. And I want to thank you all for being available for us. And thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we will be touching you because of some of the people might come back to us to say, can I get Zinke's contact? Can I get the or Katie? I want to actually expand my network to those networks. But thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers. And thank you to everybody, and even our technical team and the guys who are taking notes behind the scene, who will be writing some reports at the end. But thank you so much to everyone who had been active in this. Thank you so much.